Now it is the time to start the lecture. Today we have Mr. Rahul Kansal with us, who is going to share his views on the topic consumer behavior. He is a BA Economic Honors from SRCC, Shriram College of Commerce, Delhi University. It is one of the best colleges in India. After doing BA Economic, he did his MBA from IIM Calcutta in the year 1979. For 40 years, he has been in advertising and marketing profession. He worked for approximately 20 years with India's leading agencies such as JWT, O&M, and DDB. He retired in 2016 as Executive Vice President of Times Group, and during his tenure of over 15 years at the company, TOI, means Times of India, emerged as the world's largest circulated English newspaper. He was also responsible for leading several high profile brand initiatives like Lead India, Teach India, Aman Ki Asha, Times Litfest, and ET Power of India. He is currently consultant as Future Brands Limited. Prior to this, he worked as group brand advisor at Networks 18. Sir, Kansal sir, how do you or how did you manage such a powerful profile? Please tell me and tell others also. We are really honored to have you here to deliver a lecture. Over to you, sir. Thank you so much.
A combination of, in fact, much more a sense of the opportunities one gets. I was lucky to join the Times of India at a time when the media was really sort of opening up in a big way. Interest in news was really gathering momentum. I joined around 2002. I was, of course, lucky to get a free hand to help build the newspaper as a marketed entity. Till then, by and large, newspapers didn't do much marketing. So we did the right sort of marketing, which is to build stature for the brand. And we were lucky. We finally got to a situation where the Times of India is as big as the next three or maybe four English newspapers put together. Anyway, I moved on from there from 2016. The presentation I'm going to make today is actually a summarization of what I have seen happening to India as a consumer market. So it basically tries to capture some overall trends in consumer behavior in India over the past maybe 10, 12 years. And then more specifically tries to see whether the current pandemic, which is possibly the biggest and the most disruptive event that this generation has seen, or last three generations may have seen. So it is also going to try and see how the larger trends of consumer behavior in the country may get impacted, some in the short run, some in the more longer term as well, thanks to COVID. So that's really the essence of what my presentation today will be. So as I said, this is about consumer behavior in India and how the current pandemic is likely to impact it. So the presentation will really be in three parts. One will be the first part is consumer behavior in India, key trends over the past few years. So this is before the pandemic came into our lives to disrupt it so badly. It's my take on what's been happening as broad trends in consumer behavior, the changing way in which people are behaving as consumers in this country. Second part, we'll look at the pandemic from the point of view of its impact on consumer behavior, both while the pandemic is active, which I dare say will last at least 12, maybe 18 months, and over time, is it likely that it leaves its imprint behind on our society and on consumers generally, even over time? And in the wake of this, what are the opportunities? Surely, while the pandemic, the crisis, will cause a lot of chaos for a lot of industries, it may also be tremendous opportunity for some industries. So it's going to look at that as well. So let's start with the first part. I have called the overall framework for understanding the changing Indian consumer as wings and roots. By wings, I mean the desire to fly high, the desire to explore new territory, new experiences. And roots is to go back to where you came from. Roots is about anchoring yourself in permanent things, permanent values, permanent situations. So let's start with the former, the wings of change. And here I do believe that the internet and its progressive, it sort of made a hesitant start. Sorry, it made a hesitant start maybe by the late 90s, began to gather momentum by the early part of the 2000s, and thereafter got a huge fillip when mobile phones became a revolution in this country, and the average man on the street had a smartphone and could watch internet content or content coming to him digitally on his screen, on his mobile screen. The internet has in many ways been the fundamental engine of change. And as somebody who's now like 63 years of age and has seen 6 decades of change, I would say to you that while marketing people, even in the 70s and 80s and 90s, talked about a lot of change happening in India, the truth is we were changing at a snail's pace till the internet came along, and thereafter. And you, as students who've largely been born post the millennium, in fact, all of you would have basically have been born in this millennium, you would have seen the internet as a fact of life, perhaps. But it's important to see it from, let's say, just a half a generation earlier. You'll find that the internet has been a dramatic change in the way consumers see life. First of all, we must understand that India was a collective society. It was a society where the individual was less important than the collective. Society as a whole mattered. Samaj kya bolega? Log kya kahenge? Every individual had to conform first and foremost to societal expectations and only then assert his individuality. But the internet, more than anything else, has unleashed the individual. In many ways, the selfie is a very strong, powerful metaphor of this. People with a certain degree of vanity photographing themselves, putting it out there on social media. Before you have a meal, you take a shot of a dish. Wherever you're out on holiday, you take photographs showing yourself enjoying yourself in some nice location. And the idea that I matter, I am a person with a great hairstyle, I'm a person with an attitude and a personality, that individual has got unleashed. As I said, individuals now handcraft the personality they wish to present to the world. Young people like yourselves, you agonize over how to describe yourself. Let's say on Facebook or any other Instagram or any other social media platform. You choose the right words, you agonize over what picture to put up out there, and so on and so forth. You see the social media as a stage on which the individual performs, in a sense. And this has led to an explosion in categories like beauty, men's grooming, color cosmetics, fashion. Men's grooming, for example, till I would say barely 10, 12, 15 years ago, generally the sort of men were supposed to not be concerned about their looks beyond a point. That was meant to be a sort of a feminine pursuit. Women were supposed to agonize over their beauty and their looks and their fashion. Guys were meant to be all very cool, didn't use skincare products, didn't use hair care products beyond a point. Uh, Perhaps even thought of shampoo as a bit namby-pamby. Were quite happy washing their hair with soap or whatever. But there's been an explosion on men's grooming. I happen to advise a brand called Ustra, which some of you may have heard of. It's a brand of men's fashion. And I know that the category is experiencing 50-60% per annum growth, with biggies like Unilever, etc., looking seriously at this category. So, by and large, the individual has been unleashed. The second thing is that today, when we were growing up, when I was young or whatever, or as a child, the idea was that you were supposed to be simple living and high thinking was the broad norm that we grew up on. You didn't really spend too much money on things like holidays or eating out. You saved to build yourself a house. You bought assets that had long life. So, in other words, durables that were very had 20-year-old longevity. But today, that's changed. As an adventure, as an accumulation of experiences. So life is not just a collection of assets like stainless steel utensils and a car and maybe a house by the time you're 40 or 50. That's there, but that you can even buy on EMI or you can rent it. Life is an adventure, an accumulation of experiences, which is why you'll find that by and large, and I'm not talking about this in the COVID period, but before this, things like traveler and foodie were the most preferred tags on one's profile. It was important to show the world that you were an adventurer of some kind. You like to experience new things, new kinds of drinks, new kinds of food, new kinds of holiday experiences, and so on and so forth. This has probably led to something called the experience economy for the first time. And as I was saying, the whole idea moved from physical assets with long term value, which you could जिसको आप ठोक बजा के देख सकते थे जो आपके घर में रहते थे तो earlier people spent money on things that they could touch, feel and store. Today more and more memories and experiences are assets. So you'll find that there's a huge willingness to spend on experiences that create permanent memories. So your photo album is an asset as much as a car or a house or a music system is an asset. Which is why food as entertainment, holiday as adventure. Half a generation ago, eating out was considered a waste. If you know, say, कि घर में तो इतना अच्छा खाना बनता है, why to spend 3 times, 4 times that money going out? But today, nobody thinks about that. Weddings earlier, whatever budget was available for a wedding was basically used to buy those saman for the bride and bridegroom, maybe saris and jewelry and whatever. I mean, whatever money could be saved was given as physical assets. Today, the amount of money young couples and their parents are willing to spend on destination weddings, on photographers. The photography bill for a wedding could easily be 2, 3, 5 lakhs. Decor, flowers, and so on and so forth, which is just to create a beautiful album, actually, more than anything else. So, again, experiences as assets that doesn't deliver permanent, tangible assets to you, but delivers a very memorable wedding, perhaps. Or for people at my age group, all of us in my MBA batch or whatever, we have our bucket lists of what are the places we must go to before we pop it. So whether it's the South Pole or whether it's a cruise in Norway or whatever. So, and this, and therefore, because experiences matter, now service has become even more important than perhaps product. Earlier, in fact, it was the other way around. Earlier, service was difficult to sell on its own and probably needed bundling with a physical product. So I'll give you an example of this. So in small towns of India, even in the 80s, 90s, perhaps even till later, doctors could not get away by charging a lot of money for their services, for their consultation. So ज़्यादातर आपको दवाई वोट दे देते थे. But it was easy to charge money for the medicines. And the advice was sort of bundled for free. even things like what I like my the kind of work I have done, say brand consulting. Nobody paid for just the idea of the brand. आपको उसमें कोई फिजिकल प्रोडक्ट देना पड़ता था, लाइक ग्राफिक आइडेंटिटी, लोगो बना के दे दो ब्रांड का, या कुछ और एडवर्टाइजिंग बना के दे दो, तब जाके लोग पैसा देते थे. बट द सर्विस बाय इटसेल्फ वाज डिफिकल्ट टू चार्ज फॉर. Ironically, it's changing now. Consumers now increasingly buy a service or solution, and the physical product is only a delivery mechanism. So, for example, let's say raw juices, very expensive, maybe 100 plus per bottle. But so as a product, people say, "Pata nahi, acha hai kya nahi hai." But the moment you convert it to a service like a detox package, people will pay 1,000 rupees for 1 week's delivery of some, raw pressery bottles, raw juice bottles, plus some advice, plus some tips on dieting, and people are happy to cough up 1,000 rupees. So the moment you convert a product to a deliverable service, people are willing to pay for it. And therefore, you find this trend across in everything we do. Earlier, it was a must for every young person who got into working life. कि जल्दी से जल्दी मैं गाड़ी खरीद लूं. But progressively, and that's one of the reasons why the auto industry is in such deep trouble, apart from whatever other factors there are, is that people say today, why do I necessarily need to own a car? In any case, it's so difficult to drive in a big city like Delhi or Bombay. Why can't they just depend on Uber and Ola? Similarly, for all kinds of luxury products, you can hire them, from furniture to jewelry to expensive clothing, luxury products. So if people say कि भाई मुझे golf अगर खेलना है, so rather than buy a 20,000 rupee golf set, why don't I just hire it till I know I am becoming a regular golf player? Or indeed, bridal jewelry. You can instead of spending lakhs of rupees, either people now go for this young jewelry or you can hire out jewelry. So, as I said, it's a complete switch of what it used to be. Earlier, service was seen as a leakage of money, because it went away from your pocket and you got nothing concrete back in return. Today, indeed, people are willing to pay for service, but not necessarily for the product itself. Because the product means you're locking your money in a car that you use only occasionally. You're locking your money on furniture that you may outgrow after a while. You're locking your money on bridal dress, which you will not use again and again. So for that reason, people prefer to pay for expensive service rather than buy assets. Because there's now an ability to experience a wide range of products without the need to own anything. That's a huge, and it's fueling many, many industries. Another very basic thing that why the wings of optimism came along, was fueled by an optimistic outlook about the future. One generation ago, by and large, the financial wisdom was you must save for a rainy day. Okay, so by and large, earlier, as I said, the whole financial thinking was you must save for a rainy day. Jitni chadar utne pair pasaro. Only buy things from what you already have saved. Indeed, keep some saving aside for some unexpected difficulty in the future. Exactly opposite to that, today's generation is willing to spend more than it is earning today in expectation of a brighter future. What is the underlying? But this is the complete 180-degree switch of perspective. And I think the main reason for that is that our generation, by and large, grew up at a time when India was going through difficulties, employment wasn't easy, and so on and so forth. And generally, we expected the future to be an uncertain and probably dangerous time. You don't know what googlies the future would throw at you. Conversely, today's generation has seen a much more vibrant India, and by and large goes out in the expectation that the future is going to be better than today. So even if I can't afford it today, let me buy on EMI, because I know my future will allow me to pay back for it. So that's a brilliant or a complete switch in perspective that's happened. And that's fueled these wings of change that I talked about. But the interesting thing is that even as Indian consumers are, rapidly moving towards moving towards the few, sort of exploring the wings of their own fantasies, wings of exploration, wings of adventure. At the same time, there is an equally opposite reaction taking place where more and more people are going back to the roots in some way or the other. Let's see in what form this is taking place. At one level, this sort of desire to go back to the roots is a response to the increasingly stressful and shallow urban life we find today. A lot of people feel that compared to the good old days when life was simpler, today it's a stressful life out there and a shallow life out there in the urban cities of today. There's this whole idea of survival of the fittest, there's intense competitiveness. While everybody talks about how many opportunities there are, you can become a chef, you can become a photographer, you can become a social media influencer. So, while on the one hand, it is true that new opportunities are opening up, but those opportunities don't help everybody. There are some lucky people who thrive on those opportunities, many others don't. So, there is this increasingly this also this stress. Earlier, क्या था आपको एक बार सरकारी नौकरी लग गई, so you can retire from there 30 years later. And similarly, by and large, for private sector also, people tended not to shift around. There was a certain security. Even if you grew at a snail's pace, there was certain security in going into a job and retiring out from there. Today, you have to constantly perform, constantly be on your toes. There's much more hire and fire, and so on. Also, I think there's a decline of ethics. Overall, it's a bit sad, I think. But overall, earlier, I know that there was a certain degree of idealism that still remained in Indian society, thanks to the all the freedom fighters and the whole generation. The idea of building a new India that probably began to disappear by the 70s or 80s. There was rampant corruption. The license and permit Raj began to corrupt Indian bureaucracy and so on. So the rot started around then, perhaps. But today, while we complain about the corruption in the political classes and so on, truth is there's corruption in society. The average man on the street thinks nothing of bribing a cop rather than paying a full fine. Students across, and we hear horror stories of children, school children in Bihar or elsewhere, openly. There's cheating happening in exams. There's fake news galore. You don't know who's telling the truth, who's not telling the truth. There is generally mistrust everywhere. And therefore, there is increasingly rising intolerance and cynicism. Today, the divide between ethnic groups, between those who are supposed to be, let's say, bhakts and pseudo liberal people. I mean, there's a name calling of everybody who's not like yourself. So, this kind of thing is happening. There's a certain degree of frustration out there. So therefore, a new realization seems to be dawning. Now, we find that the environment, the pollution, used to, by and large, we thought of it as a rich world's problem. We didn't really care कि भाई, Arctic circle, Arctic ice is coming down. हमको फर्क नहीं पड़ता था. But ever since, let's say, the problem has hit home to us, when the Delhi air has become unbreathable, when the rivers of our country have become very badly polluted, now it is in our lives. It's here in the air we breathe, in the chemically overdosed fruits and vegetables we buy. And there's a frustration at life becoming a continuous rat race. So perhaps for a lot of us, there is a yearning for what we believe are the simpler, purer times we have left behind. तो याद लोग जब बाबा दादी लोग बताते हैं कि कितनी साफ वो थी और बरेली से हिमालय दिख जाता था जो आज पहली बार फिर से दिख रहा है वगैरह वगैरह. So there's a certain yearning for the simpler, purer times we have left behind. So as much as we have advanced, there's also this feeling that this advancement is sort of spinning out of control. And you'll see that this is reflected in a deep, जो भी fault lines होती हैं सोसाइटी में, चाहे वो हिंदू वर्सेस मुस्लिम वर्सेस कोई दूसरा रिलीजन हो, वैसी लाइन्स हो, क्लास वाइज लाइन्स हो, कास्ट वाइज लाइन्स हो, कंट्री वाइज जो जो बाउंड्रीज हो, जितनी भी इस तरह की बाउंड्रीज हैं वो डीप होती जा रही, और ज्यादा कड़क होती जा रही। तो पहले तो कंट्री के लेवल पर इंडिया, the city, the countries of the world are becoming much more hard and much more insular nationalism. ये आपको सुनाई, we all know about America, how America first, forget immigration, forget the green card, any company that doesn't make it in America will get penalized, and so on. Brexit, against a lot of, against the economics of the all the economists of the world warning, or that Britain should not leave the European Union. The point is Brexit has happened on account of popular opinion, and maybe they'll not do too badly despite that. Or there's the Catalan independence in Spain, Alternative for Germany, a nationalist group in Germany. Every country seems to be drawing harder borders. And we'll talk about it post COVID, it's deepening further, with China becoming a major factor and so on and so forth. But it's not only stopping at the national boundaries. Within nations, you find communal and caste boundaries are becoming sharper than ever. When 14 years ago, when Obama, rather 13 years ago, 11, sorry, when Obama became president of the United States, it was expected that it will be a healing moment in the lives of blacks and whites of America. The truth is that America में, the blacks and whites have a sharper divide today than ever before. As far as the Islamic world is concerned, लोग कहते हैं the war of civilizations, Islam versus other religions. But देखा जाए तो इस्लाम के अंदर जो fault lines हैं, they are probably more horrible, more sharp than between Islam and everywhere else. The Sunnis versus Shias, the whole ISIS was a result of these kind of differences. Salafis versus Wahhabis versus Ahmadiyas. आप हमारे पड़ोसी देश में देखेंगे बुद्धिस्ट वर्सेस रोहिंग्यास, इंडिया में भक्स वर्सेस pseudo secularists, or at least what each the names given by each group to the other. इस तरह की fault lines बढ़ती जा रही हैं. So what all does this mean in terms of consumer behavior? पहली बात तो जो brands with a Swadeshi world view have been doing very well. Patanjali, for example, is as much about saying कि multinationals हमारी हमेशा से exploit करते आ रहे हैं, अपना स्वदेशी खरीदो, as it is about, of course, Ayurveda and nature and all that sort of thing. There's generally been a return to traditional wisdom. Cow's ghee is one of the fastest growing dairy products. Older grains like jowar, bajra, millets, गुड़, योगा, इस तरह की चीजें दंदन करके सामने आ रही हैं हमारे. And indeed, there's a seeking of health and safety in a variety of products. Foods में अब कोई मैदा तो एकदम जैसे एकदम नो हो चुका है. तो चाहे वो ITC के बिस्किट्स हो, चाहे वो आशीर्वाद आटा हो, whole wheat versus मैदा, millets are a big thing, healthy oils, organic foods, cold press, no preservatives. इस तरह की चीजें हर चीज में लेबल्स पे लिखते हुए लोग लिख रहे हैं. ब्यूटी में अलग अलग नामों से अलग अलग अश्योरेंसेस लोग दे रहे हैं. नेचुरल है, पैराबेन फ्री है, हाइपो एलर्जेनिक नहीं है, या है पता नहीं क्या है वो, तो डर्मेटोलॉजिकली टेस्टेड है, फ्रेग्रेंस फ्री है वगैरह. तो ये ट्रेंड्स थे. ऑन द वन हैंड, Indian consumers wanting to be on par with the world, going out there, experiencing the world, trying new foods, being adventurous and foodies. On the other hand, coming back to traditional wisdom, coming back to a tribal outlook, sticking to their own kind, believing in nationalism, believing in the identity of their own subclass or whatever. तो ये तो था. ये पैंडेमिक इसको किस तरह अफेक्ट करेगा? What can be said about this? What can be said while the pandemic lasts, and what might be said about what impact it will have over time? I'll start with my summary I think overall the pandemic will result in a clipping of the wings. It will make us a lot more cautious about flying out high, and it will greatly strengthen the idea of finding our roots. That, to my mind, is the overall summary of what will happen. And I'll share with you what I mean by this. Let's take the first point, a clipping of wings. So let's talk about the short run till the pandemic is active. Now, that nobody can say what time frame that is. It will probably be till a definitive cure is with us or a vaccine is with us. So it may last 12 months, 18 months is unlikely to be earlier than that. It is likely to create an economic upheaval on a scale that I think our stock markets and so on have not yet realized. I have a feeling that the worst news is still to come out. Because many industries are likely to face the brunt of this in a brutal way. There will probably be the second broad idea is a paranoia, a real high degree of concern about health and hygiene. And of course, there'll remain lot of care and caution about travel and assembly, and most of it will happen only when it's dire necessary. Let's start with the first. I think cautious spending behavior. What I did was to actually do a survey amongst MBA batchmates of mine, as well as one of my batchmates is a teacher. So he was doing a blog, so there were lots of fairly intelligent comments out there. So I've taken verbatim comments from about 23 marketing people, professionals or MBAs from my batch. So one big thought that lots of people had to say, there'll be a lot of cautious spending behavior. We'll ask, do I really need it? Products that we have learned to do without in the lockdown period may never come back. जो चाहे रोज अखबार के बिना जिनको चाय भी हजम नहीं होती थी, उन्होंने जब लगातार 2 महीने अखबार नहीं पढ़ा, तो चांसेस आर कि जब आ भी जाएगा वापस तो शायद वो ना ले. They may prefer to keep reading the news online and so on. Those who discovered that they have already so many clothes, उनको वैसे भी वो पहनने का मौका नहीं आता. They may say यार और क्या खरीदें, हाँ, जो है वही नहीं पहन पा रहे हैं. So those things that we have already learned to do without may never come back. Second, spending will be focused on necessity rather than comfort and luxury. It's again a same point. Third, because there'll be lots of businesses will actually have lost cash or will be so fearful of how long this problem will last or whatever, there will be a tendency to conserve cash and therefore reduce costs, cut down office space if possible, lower salaries or headcount if possible, etc. Durables will be badly hit, as in fancy durables which you can do without. So, for example, let's say a new music system, perhaps even a new car, you probably stretch existing durables for a longer time. Conversely, durables that help you save, the need for domestic help, like maybe a vacuum cleaner, maybe a washing machine, or even a dishwasher. It is expected that some of those durables may actually see a bump, a rise. I think this social distancing will become a sort of a way of life. Having lost, if over weeks and months people stop shaking hands, stop hugging each other, वो थोड़ी सी वो आपके एक जहन में आ जाएगा. हाँ, people will become more inward looking and less social. Social distancing will be in the subconscious always. But always, I mean, at least till the pandemic is fully out of our lives. Namaste will be back in fashion. No more hugging, pat on the peck on the cheek. Arm's length cordiality will prevail. Travel and eating out will be the worst affected. Sports and entertainment will be in deep freeze. Although I think human ingenuity, human creativity is very high. Already we're seeing the German football having come back in, and I'm told it's getting record audiences. So finally, sports is about television audiences, and therefore, with or without fans in the stadiums, some of these entertainment make their may find a new way to enter our lives and remain in our lives. Restaurants are already going out of business. They will continue to face difficult times. Conversely, new wings or stronger wings may take root. So, for example, you're finding that, let's say, online escapes, entertainment, the OTT platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hotstar are seeing dramatic growth. And you'll find that as soon as it's possible to do physical production again, that you may find that this will come back with with a bang, with many more films being made or serials being made only for OTT. Gaming is already seeing 70-80% growth. I know of many gaming sites that are ramping up big time. One gaming site that I use quite often, a bridge site, has seen at least a doubling of numbers in the last 2 months, and so on. Virtual hangouts. So, participative events online are likely to become very, very big. Already, one finds that people are doing where you can pay your way into a quizzing session or a online or a stand-up comedy session or whatever. Sports or music shows for online viewing. Affordable pleasures of all kinds. So, even if restaurants do poorly, ordering in online food delivery is booming or will boom. Right now, there's still cautiousness. So Swiggy and all have shifted a lot to the supplying groceries and that kind of thing. But very likely, online food delivery will become much more rampant. Chocolates and candies are likely to be seeing a lot of growth. That often happens at times of recession or economic uncertainty. Small pleasures, affordable pleasures of life tend to do well. Alcohol, and we saw some of that in the craze after the lockdown got lifted. What is the possible long-term effect of this of the pandemic? A possible reaction to the enforced austerity is one half of the people I surveyed felt that there will be a massive correction after the pandemic is over, say 12, 18 months from now. People will be sick of all the confinement and pessimism. Once the virus scare is over, entertainment and travel will boom like never before. It was also said and done that's part of human nature to want to enjoy life. Luxury will see a huge revival. Some people will feel that the motivation for saving will go down. That's another view to that. People will say that life to वैसे भी uncertain है, especially those who've seen death and disease around them. So may as well enjoy life. इस तरह की thoughts भी आएंगे लोगों को. There will be a need to maximize hedonic gratification. Means कि भाई जो दिल में आए उसको वो जो हर तमन्ना को अपनी खुश करो. Before it is too late to enjoy things. So one school of thought was that जब ये pandemic खत्म होगा तो people will consume with both hands. They will really make up for lost time. On the other hand, there was a counter view to this. They said that lockdown has been a time for stillness, for reflection. There's a questioning of the rat race. There's a feeling that we must focus on the more important things in life. I think there's also a permanent in fact, lots of big thinkers like Philip Kotler, etc., have said this, that this is a change, this is a seminal time in life of humanity. By and large, India, Western society especially, had hurtled headlong along overconsumption and consumerism. I think there is a view that it will come down. There'll be a check to that. People will realize they already have too many clothes. Having not bought too many things for say 1 or 2 years, they will realize कि यार इस तरह का ओवर कंजम्पशन करना अगर हर सीजन में आप पुराने कपड़े अपने आप थ्रो अवे कर देते हो और you buy new clothes, some of that is likely to be checked. There'll be people will learn to take a pause, slow down, and probably move towards a slightly more simple lifestyle. And one person said that perhaps both trends will happen. He said, I expect a bimodal trend, and I happen to be to concur with this view. I expect a bimodal trend. The materialists will become more materialistic because of the need to maximize gratification before it's too late to enjoy things. And those advocating sustainability, जो कहते हैं कि भाई planet overheat हो रहा है, हम लोग human race प्लैनेट को ओवर एक्सप्लॉइट कर रहे हैं, जो सोचते हैं कि लाइफ शुड बिकम सिंपलर, those people will become more convinced than ever of the need to save the planet before it is too late. So both things may happen. But what is more quite certain, even if the debate is out on whether the wings will get clipped permanently or not, what I think can be said with more certainty is कि roots to deepen होंगे. Because this deepening of roots was already a trend happening. See, wings एक ट्रेंड था जो पैंडेमिक काट रहा है या कम करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, तो वो लॉन्ग टर्म ट्रेंड से फिर से अपने आप को रीअसर्ट करे. बट रूट्स तो ऑलरेडी ट्रेंड था. डीपनिंग ऑफ रूट्स वाज ऑलरेडी अ ट्रेंड. द पैंडेमिक विल हेसन दैट ट्रेंड एंड डीपन दैट ट्रेंड, एंड देयरफॉर आई थिंक दिस विल बी अ मोर परमानेंट चेंज. What do I mean by that? So I said there were already lots of key trends which we had already discussed. A heightened concern for health and hygiene was already there. Heightened concern for the environment was already coming along. Every winter, Delhi went crazy about the bad air. There was already a sharpening of what I am calling tribal identities. Means कि मैं क्षत्रिय हूँ, मैं दलित हूँ, मैं हिंदू हूँ, मैं मुस्लिम हूँ, मैं इंडियन हूँ, मैं पाकिस्तानी हूँ. इस तरह की जो आइडेंटिटीज थी वो ऑलरेडी शार्पन होती जा रही हैं. मेरे ख्याल से ये पैंडेमिक जो है इन सारे ट्रेंड्स को और ज्यादा accelerate करेगा. So there'll be a heightened concern for health and hygiene for sure. It was already there. It will become probably a permanent factor of our lives. Face masks, after SARS, most of Far East, we almost used to find it funny that Japanese tourists would come always wearing these masks. उनको उनकी लाइफस्टाइल में आ गया था. मुझे लगता है काफी हद तक फेस मास्क विल बिकम मोर और लेस अ पार्ट ऑफ आवर लाइफस्टाइल. As we go out, we'll tend to cover our face. Sanitizers and disinfectant wipes could probably be included in handbags. The pharma sector can expect boom times. In fact, yesterday's ET or today's ET perhaps talks about how the Nifty Pharma has, in fact, it's at the levels that it was in early March or in February. So although it was underperforming Nifty at the start of the year, today it's 50% higher than Nifty. So pharma sector is doing very well. Insurance industry will have a boom. Life, health on personal level. Even more disturbingly, I think, to me at least, there'll be an increased tribalism. What I mean is this: कि मेरा मुल्क, मेरा कौम, मेरा ये. Deepening fault lines of society. Already हम देख रहे हैं the kind of nasty discussion, say between Hindus and Muslims. उन्होंने कोरोना फैलाया. उधर अमेरिका में कि भाई ये ब्लैक्स गंदी हालत में रहते हैं, वो फैला रहे हैं. विदेशी जो आते हैं मेक्सिको से, वो फैला रहे हैं. So whether it is along ethnic groups, along socio-economic classes, this is one of those diseases that first came in through the more higher socio-economic class of India, those who traveled abroad. So people like maid servants, etc., are paranoid about coming to middle class societies because उनको लगता है एक बार उसको हो जाएगा तो बेचारी क्या करेंगे. So it is a factor. जो बेचारी migrant labor जाती है वापस, उनको वहां पे भी they are not welcome anymore. So there is deepening fault lines across regions, across socio-economic classes, and of course across nations. I feel that the animosity between, say, America and China, or indeed China and many other countries, and across all bordering states, will become deeper and deeper. And therefore, I fear this is a fertile ground for revival of ethnic after CAA and all that, NRC, we were seeing so much Gadar and Shaheen Bagh. It has got overtaken by Corona. But unfortunately, I feel that the conditions are ripe for this again getting taken up in new forms. नए नए मुद्दे शायद सामने आए हमारे. And also, I think that this is a time for further erosion of trust. You don't know what news to believe, what not to believe. At a time like this, anybody, any institution that can stand up as being a highly respectable, trustable thing will become very important. And you'll find brands wanting to appear very believable, very trustworthy, and so on. So I think at a time like this, again going back to roots, in terms of consumer behavior, the lockdown is a time for revisiting of basics. Huh? It is certainly low superficial products के मुकाबले, they are very likely to want to go towards more hardcore basic products of their lives. And within those product categories also, shift from superficial to core values. So for example, already देख रहे हैं, already ये दिख रहा है क्योंकि अकाउंट है, एक क्लाइंट इसके लिए मैं थोड़ा बहुत काम करता हूँ, वो स्किन केयर और कॉस्मेटिक्स में है. Already the conversation on Nykaa and others is about healthy beauty. The idea of deep beauties, not skin deep beauty. अपने फेस को कॉस्मेटिक से पोतने से बचाए, आप उसकी स्किन को सुंदर बनाओ, स्किन को और हेल्थी और ग्लोइंग बनाओ. So there is we don't realize it, but somehow this was already a shift taking place. It is going to gather momentum. लॉन्ग टर्म अप्रोच टू इन्वेस्टमेंट्स. इस जमाने में लोग को ट्रिगर हैप्पी कि आपने कहीं पे जहां पे हाईएस्ट रिटर्न मिल रहा है आपने वहां पे पैसे डाल दिए, चाहे वो मिड कैप स्मॉल कैप फंड हो या बॉन्ड हो किसी अननोन कंपनी का, उसमें आपने पैसे डाल दिए. टुडे पीपल आर कीपिंग द मनी इन सेफ्टी इन द सेविंग्स deposits and so on, savings bank accounts and so on. The idea of self-reliance, we cannot be sure about domestic stuff. खुद सीखना बेहतर है, खुद अपनी झाड़ू पोछा आना चाहिए, खुद अपना बर्तन और क्लोथ्स को धोना आना चाहिए. Importance of education and learning. You must secure yourself against future shocks like this. So a lot of especially online education and learning platforms are doing exceedingly well already. Another likely outcome of all this is a digital transformation. This again was a trend already with us. India was moving towards a digital future at a rapid pace. I think the 2 months of the lockdown have been a sea change. Sometimes what happens is big events like demonetization brought in digital payments in a very big way. So sometimes there are sudden moments that bring about transformation. And I believe digital transformation is already happening. In many ways, while this trend was already happening, the lockdown is a possible turning point in India's digital future. Because what's happened is that cut off from the real world, our screens have become virtually the reality, the true reality for us. So cut off from the real world, a sense of the tangible, tactile reality of the virtual world. वो हमारे लिए reality बनता जा रहा है. So some new virtual behaviors that may become permanent. Working from home. I already know. For example, मेरा एक जो Future Brands, this is a consulting company I'm associated with, is already declared as a permanent policy. क्योंकि उनके यहाँ कि आप so long as there are certain protocols to ensure that you work your 8 or 9 hours a day, but you don't have to come to office if you don't need to. And they're using this to also let go half their office. They're reducing their office size by half by allowing people to work from home. Virtual business meetings through platforms like the one we're using now, or Zoom, or alternatives to Zoom that are coming along, will become the norm. And you find that you are saving so much travel time by doing virtual meetings. We already discussed digital and online entertainment, online learning and education. They will become progressively more and more permanent fixtures of our life. Some of these changes will probably will have a cascading, snowballing effect on many other industries. So, for example, working from home will probably mean lower need for office space, will mean lower need for personal transportation. Well, you are not going to be going to office every day. You'll say, I may as well not buy myself a car at all. जब मुझे जरूरत पड़ेगी मैं Uber बुला लूंगा. फॉर्मल क्लोथिंग की जरूरत शायद कम पड़ जाए. तो वन थिंग विल लीड टू मेनी थिंग्स. So I think it's probably going to be a great boost to several online businesses. We're already seeing this and it will probably keep growing. E-commerce is expected boom times. Amazon worldwide expects to hire 100,000 people. Online food delivery is becoming a big industry. Online investments, online education, counseling, learning, digital entertainment, telecom. We've seen the kind of valuations that Geo has received in recent investments from Facebook and others. Telecom and Bharti Airtel, after a somewhat difficult period, is back to very good valuations and market capitalization. Of course, even in digital, some portals which seek collective consumption. So let's say, or travel. So let's say Book My Show, which is all about getting people to a cinema hall. They will continue to face difficulties. Or Make My Trip, which got people to travel, will have difficulties. uh, Online shopping of luxury or indulgence products may have difficulties because I think there'll be a cautiousness towards buying luxury products for a while. So some digital services may also have a difficulty, but by and large, most online businesses are likely to have a good time. So to conclude, 2 3 slides now, we are likely to see progressively a cautious and inward-looking insular consumer. The categories most hit is likely to be luxury goods, discretionary products where you may not have to buy today. You can always postpone buying those. Travel, eating out, perhaps sports, all forms of proximate consumption products, which means consumption collectively, together. Those kind of products will do badly. Those categories, these guys will need to find a lot of intervention, like sports is doing, to modify their offering to cater to need for safety and distancing. So you find that even without fans, a football match is as interesting to watch. In fact, they can do better by putting in the reaction of online watchers, their gasps and their cheers and their hurrays. There can be a mechanism to let that collective noise come into the stadium. There are ways to create the feeling of fan participation. But anyway, but already I think sport is making a comeback. So they'll need to modify. Otherwise, these categories will need to hang in there for a correction. As I said, now most people expect the things that are to do with consumption are likely to make a comeback 2 years from now. So you have to find a way to somehow not go bankrupt in the meanwhile, so that you can enjoy the boom time when they come again. And of course, there'll be a whole lot of industries that are catering to this back to basics, the roots wala attitude. So it's going to be a conducive environment for healthy or healthier foods, for pharma and related services, for education, insurance, and investment advice. And I think even companies that sell general like snack foods or biscuits or skin products, there'll be a benefit in building in health and eco-friendly kind of messages into the various brands. कि बताने की जरूरत है कि ये safe है, ये organic है, वगैरह वगैरह. And I think it'll become very important to at a time when everybody's seen as fake or people are doubting everybody, brands that come through as ethical, strong, trustworthy are likely to do very well. So, as I said, lastly, it's going to be a particularly good time for online services and especially services that cater to individual consumption, which you can consume sitting by yourself in your own home and probably cater to more basic consumer needs rather than luxury needs. For those that are likely to experience a favorable environment, in fact, it will be a time for sensible investments. And for those that are likely to have difficult times and obstacles, it's only a time to conserve cash and hang in there and wait for the good times to return. So that brings me to the end of my conversation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kansal, for spending your valuable time. If you have seen any questions in your box, in your chat box, which you would like to respond to, please do so now.
Can you tell us something about nano and consumer behavior regarding that? And would people will ever be willing to buy cheap cars like that in future? Okay, I mean, I'm not an expert on automobiles in particular, but I happen to have a batchmate of mine actually was a very senior man at Tata Motors. So I remember this discussion with him, and he tended to agree with what I said. I think what happened was that Ratan Tata downwards, for at least a year before Nano was launched, they kept talking about it as the people's car, the under 1 lakh rupee car. So I think the Nano became symbolic with low price and little else. The truth is that for a lot of people who buy a car, now the target audience for this is obviously people who have never bought a car of their, or at least a new car of their own till now. For those who already buy 4 lakh, 5 lakh, 7 lakh cars, it was not really aimed at them. It was aimed at expanding the market. Now, what happens is when something becomes known as a cheap car, then it robs you of the pleasure of buying four wheels for the first time. You know, people for somebody to migrate from public transport or from a two-wheeler to a car is a big deal. Now, had they not done so much hype before the launch of the Nano, but presented it as a zippy, fashionable, like Maruti 800 did back in the mid 80s. Suppose it had come without underlining its price, but more its mobility, more the fact that it gives a young family wings to go where they want, to not be bogged down by bad weather or whatever. If they had played the whole game differently, presented it as mobility for those who have not had mobility so far, I think they would have had a much better chance of success. But because it became just price, and the truth is that at 1 lakh you can buy a 2-year-old or 3-year-old, Alto, 2-year-old Alto, or maybe a 3-year-old Swift. So it's not as if 1 lakh cars weren't around. And if you buy a 3-year-old Swift at 1.25 lakhs or some such, which at that time had been the price, I guess, so you're buying a good full-fledged car. Then nobody's going to ask you funny questions about it. That's my view about Nano, but I could be wrong. Next one. What do you think, sir, after the pandemic, will the rich become richer and the poor become yet poorer? Very good question. Again, it's, I'm no economist, so I can't say for sure. But for sure, as you know, I mean, from a lot of work of prominent economists like Mr. Piketty, Thomas Piketty, and other, I mean, famous world famous economists, the world as a whole has been seeing economic polarization at an extremely worrying scale. And Indian society in particular is very polarized. The income disparities in India are shocking actually. And it is more than likely that this disparity will become further enhanced because the pandemic is likely to affect the poor very hard, very hard. Whether it is migrant workers who desperately came to live in hospitable conditions in urban areas, they've gone back home. When they will return, they will be neither here nor there. They obviously were not needed in the agriculture of their native villages. That's why they came here, or they were needed only for certain periods of time. That's why they kept going back and forth. They're going to be badly affected, and so on. Even the health, the spread of the pandemic is likely to be much higher. The slums and the poorer parts of the country, especially of urban India, they are the most vulnerable, I would imagine. So, in every way, I think that the problem of income polarization is likely to be made worse by this pandemic. Do you think after we will have ample opportunities after we graduate? Sorry, what's it? because the companies are already cost cutting and the unemployment is already increasing already. My honest and probably sad sort of feeling is, see, you pass out 2 years later. See, what happens is that that's a big point. The current the employment situation. See, I remember 2009 when there was a terrible downturn after the Lehman Brothers collapse in the economic downturn. Those who were passing out in 2009, perhaps even 2010, had a terrible time. There were people left without jobs or without placement, even from tier 1 MBA institutions in 2009-10. I know that for a fact. But it made up for lost time by 2010, partially, and 2011 was boom time again. So those who came into MBA into the summer of 2009 probably passed out to the best times ever. In fact, there was a book I was reading, by Michael Gladwell. He writes, he's a fascinating author. He talks about how the generation that was born around the time or of the Great Depression, just before the late mid to late 20s, they had the best of times. But by the time they came back, the aftermath of the Great Depression was over, and the economy was growing like gangbusters. So my feeling, hopefully, is by the time this batch passes out 2 years later, we should be at the recovery phase and now making up for lost time. But all said and done, there's no way India can be held back. We are a young country, we're an underdeveloped country, we have miles and miles to go. We have decent leadership, etc. So, in that sense, I do believe that by the time you all are ready to take up a job, there should be ample opportunity. When will our country be on track after recovering from lockdown? You would have been exposed to enough and more opinions on this subject. I don't want to add to that. All I can say personally is that it's still many, many months away. This lockdown, as useful and perhaps as necessary as it was, has just about flattened the curve somewhat. But as you know, despite as strong a lockdown, some people find it having been done for too long a time. Despite that, the daily count of new infections is only going up day after day. 5,000 per day was breached maybe just 10 days ago. Today it's already 6.5, 7,000 per day routine, and so on. So I'm saying it's likely to get worse because as it spreads to more and more dense parts of the population, it will be there. I think what will happen is we'll progressively get to learn, we become a little more numb to the idea. Because the truth of the matter is that the absolute number of deaths, the absolute number of infections is still quite low. We read about it in newspapers and in the news, we get completely psyched by it. The absolute number of 6,000 per day in a country as large as ours is a small drop in the ocean. I guess nobody in this audience, or very few of us, know personally somebody who's been infected or worse has died. We've heard at most of somebody or something. So it's still not come to haunt us personally. I think that what probably will happen is that at the health level, it will linger on till a cure or vaccine is found, which may be many, many months, maybe 1.5 years from now. But psychologically, we may become a little more immune to it. We may learn to live with it. Those who are high risk people like 60s and elderly or diabetics or whatever will continue to lead a very cautious life. I feel progressively life, it can't otherwise. The people's livelihoods dependent. They can't keep the public transport of our cities shut down forever. It's not possible. Sooner or later, the economic mayhem caused will become such that they will have to open up. So I feel that at least 1.5 years before it becomes okay, but who knows? But maybe we'll get to live with it. This is somebody I know quite well called Rakshit Kansal. He's asked, do you feel there'll be a change in the consumer behavior in favor of real estate in light of a drop in certain categories of the pre-COVID basket of goods, loss of confidence in tenanted properties, and promotion of work from home? You know, again, you are likely to be much bigger expert on that subject than me. I think the biggest problem about real estate that I am aware of is the extent of oversupply that already exists. There are already so much new construction that had happened in the last 7 to 10 years, which in building after building, the actual occupation rate is very low. So anybody who moves wants, first of all, tenanted property will become cheaper, to be honest. I think it is expected a very massive slash or fall in the rates of commercial property. And I know that of somebody who tested the idea of a 50% reduction. Okay, so for the next 6 months. So, and he got it because the other person wasn't sure that he'll get a new tenant at this stage. And the person I'm talking about was able to give a viable threat because he said, look, I can actually move out and just switch to a work from home kind of a situation or something. So he got it. He got a 50% decline. So I suspect that there'll be a tenancy will not necessarily become very unattractive. And secondly, there will be, even if people want to buy, it's not necessarily going to fuel new projects. It may just end up absorbing some of the unsold inventory or the stuff lying with investors. My name is Shubhangi. I want to ask you about New Zealand media company sold for $1, which is amongst country's largest news website to its CEO. Do you think crisis like this will be more on scale? You know, see, this $1 means it's gone. You know, like it was bleeding beyond repair, and it was just told to somebody, "You can take it off my hands, please do so." It's not the first time that media companies have gone for $1. There have been enough examples of this in the past as well. So, I mean, it's a reflection of how media, especially old world media, is going through likely to go through very bad time. My ex company, the Times of India, Bennett Coleman, is preparing itself for absolute mayhem. They were already on last year, 1920, ended on some 9-10% decline in revenue. And this year will be a precipitous fall. So I think that many companies, now they will not go bankrupt probably, because they are very strong. But many other, most of the English newspapers certainly are likely to survive this. And language newspapers also will come next. So media, I think it's less about New Zealand, it's more about the idea of media being under some difficulty. Now the laborers are going back to their home. What do you think will they come on time after hurt too much in the pandemic and due to that impact on the economy? See, ultimately, survival and issues of survival move people. They got people to walk 800 kilometers, 1000 kilometers. Issues of survival back in the villages will get them back to the cities as well. तो वहाँ पे खाने के लाले पड़ेंगे. When there is no employment available in the rural areas, when there is desperation, they will have no option but to come back. And when they hear that industries are opening again, that they are facing shortage of labor rates will start going up. So that's the beauty of the market forces. You know, should there become a genuine demand, which I think will happen in the urban centers for labor, they'll come back. What will be the impact of this crisis on textile market? I mean, the truth is that there's one part of the textile market in India that's about the base. I would say you don't realize it, but probably the biggest advertisers are what? Lux Cozy underwear and so on. They are basically, or in the case of, let's say, footwear, it's like Lakhani chappals and what have you. The truth is that India is a large bottom of the pyramid market. So basic cloth for dhotis and sarees and basic stuff. It's not going to disappear. Those who need a new pair of clothes to be able to wear, they will buy those. But what will be probably much more badly hurt is branded fashion wear. Uh, I think, in fact, there was a Philip Kotler article that was circulated around in my MBA group that talks about how that's likely to be one of the industries very badly affected because the amount of overconsumption on fashion was insane, especially overseas. People would just buy new styles, even though they had, brand new clothes that they never got around to wearing. I think that is likely to see mayhem. So I do expect that from, I would say, certainly, well before below Zara, maybe from, like, let's say, FBB onwards, branded fashion is likely to see a great amount of difference. I think that probably was the last
Yes.
one.
Well,
Sorry.
I'm Vinod Kaul,
Hi.
and from the college. And yeah, thank you for spending your valuable time with our young students who are sort of going to go through this 2-year course and, of course, into the big bad world. You have rightly laid a focus on consumer behavior. As we have seen that marketing today is all based on the consumer, and marketing today is an integral part of business strategy. So this is very critical. And not only you have rightly identified a lot of trends that have been already taking place, some of which I found very good in the way you mentioned it, like the new cohorts or the new young people of India. As we say, more than half of India is under 35 years of age. They have less baggage and they see life as an adventure where experiences are more valuable than material things. So these changes are already taking place. On the negative side, of course, there is the polarization, insularity, and I think, in a sense, you rightly put that while COVID-19 is the cusp of massive changes, a lot of these changes were already in the works as a matter of trend, and now they will get speeded up. In many ways, it is good because these changes, as it is, are happening fast because of change in technology, change in a lot of other things, so forth. And it's very good for our students because if the changes happen fast in 2 years down the line, probably they'll be ready to face that, face a new world, perhaps. Thank you once again. And I think this was a very enlightening session for all of us.